morning. This is Haley Solomon with the North Carolina Housing Coalition. Thank you for joining us this morning for our housing call. And without further ado, I will turn it over to our Director of Housing Policy, Stephanie Watkins-Cruz.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is having a great week so far. We're going to go ahead and kick it off with organizational updates. So just a reminder that we have county profiles and resource feedback open for you to tell us about what you want to see in county profiles for 2024, as well as what other advocacy and policy resources and tools would be helpful for you. We've gotten some really helpful and constructive responses so far, but we'd love to see a lot more. So we'll keep that link to the survey in the call notes through October 20th. And we also have a gallery link that you can peruse whenever you want to check out past county profiles. Also, just want to lift up that this Friday is when early bird registration closes for our 2023 North Carolina Housing Works Conference. That conference is taking place next month in October on the 23rd and 24th at the Raleigh Convention Center. So don't forget, if you want to get those early bird registration prices, and we'll include that link in the call notes as well. Moving on to federal updates, it truly is budget season everywhere, it appears. The Senate was unable to pass their mini-list made up of 3 spending packages last week. There was a bit of a stall. The Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Bill, or the THUD bill, is one of those that unfortunately they weren't able to vote on last week, but they are expected to vote on it this week. House Republicans released a continuing resolution, or a CR, that would drastically cut HUD funding. And over the weekend, in this proposed CR, they proposed extending government funding for 30 days, but in exchange for slashing all non-defense spending by 8%. The U.S. Departments of Veteran Affairs and Defense, however, would remain funded at current levels, and it also includes a border security bill that they've been championing. This CR, however, does not include the White House's supplemental funding for FEMA disaster relief efforts. The Senate is aiming to pass all 12 of their fiscal year 24 spending bills through their chamber by October 1st. That's their goal, even though it doesn't appear, and they're not really sure if the House and Senate can reach an agreement on any of those bills by the deadline. So hopefully we can avoid a government shutdown, because we understand that that is not what we want at all. Just as a reminder, continuing resolutions, or CRs, are short-term spending measures that are often used to extend government funding. Usually there is widespread agreement, and this is what we've observed, that people are agreeing that this is needed, that we need CRs to avoid a shutdown. They have until September 30th. And what happens is the CRs usually maintain the previously appropriated year's level of funding for federal programs for a specific period of time, so that it gives lawmakers more time to reach an agreement for the upcoming fiscal year. However, just want to highlight that the danger here is that because the cost of housing and development continue to rise and do so every year, both keeping funding levels stagnant and cutting them really puts a lot of people at risk, especially those who rely on HUD's programs for their housing. They're in danger of losing their assistance and possibly their homes. So in the call notes, you'll find there's still opportunity for federal advocacy, for you to contact your senators and representatives and remind them, urge them to not cut investments in affordable housing and accessible homes in the fiscal 24 spending bill, and to really urge them to expand investments into housing and homelessness programs. We'll include 2 links, one to automatically contact them and support the top national housing priorities for funding housing and homelessness, and then also a way for you or your organization to sign on to the Campaign for Housing and Community Development Funding letter, because that's an automated form as well. Moving on to another interesting budget situation, our state, our lovely state, we have a draft budget, but unfortunately it's unclear if there are sufficient votes. So several of you know we're about 2-3 months late on having this budget. After several meetings over the weekend, it looks like the House may be prepared to vote on Wednesday and Thursday. And what they've done is they've separated the legalization of gaming in North Carolina into a separate bill, but are structuring it in such a way, or it looks like they're intending to structure it in such a way that they would have to, that bill would have to pass in order to trigger the expansion of Medicaid. So this is what was found in a 49-page piece of legislation that's called Gaming and Medicaid Modifications, which we'll link in the call notes for you to review. Here's what we've seen so far in the 611-page draft of the proposed fiscal 23 to 25 budget in terms of key housing appropriations. We're still looking through it. We've identified some language that will probably need some editing, but just wanted to give you all some key highlights. And of course, as we always do, we'll send out some charts and a more in-depth analysis or overview about the budget as the week goes on. So it looks like in the draft budget, there will be $35 million for each year of the biennium for the Workforce Housing Loan Program, $10 million for the Housing Trust Fund each year of the biennium, and this is made up of $5 million for homeless veterans. It also looks like there will be $13.2 million for each year of the biennium for the light weatherization program, and $83.8 million in each year of the biennium for the transitions to the Community Living Initiative. There are also several allocations to several local Habitat affiliates across the state for specifically next year, so the fiscal 23-24 part of the biennium, and then also specific affordable housing projects going to cities like Rocky Mount. So as we continue to dive into the budget and learn more, we will keep everyone posted. But check out the call notes for those highlights. Moving on to local community updates. The Chapel Hill Town Council last week passed their Affordable Housing Investment Plan. This is the first combined comprehensive affordable housing plan and investment strategy in the town's history. The plan is really intended to serve as a guide for the town's affordable housing policies and investments over the next 5 years, while also expanding their existing affordable housing toolkit and centering racial equity in housing at the same time. Some of the issues cited in this investment plan, it really is quite an impressive document. They talked about how there's been a 1% net increase in homes since 2010, but there's been a 36% increase in median home sales prices since 2020, and there has been a 32% decrease in Black home ownership since 2010. So they talked about declining rental affordability, displacement pressures, and decreasing access to home ownership, as well as limited housing supply, as some of the challenges that they hope that this plan can address. So it's quite a long document, but it's pretty beautiful, and it has a lot of great ideas and policy recommendations and sort of guidelines for how to move forward. So we'll include a link to that in the call notes. We want to lift up that Guilford County is hosting several open sessions for the public to provide feedback on the county's comprehensive plan for 2040. For those that don't know, comprehensive plans are usually tied to land use, but there are often opportunities to integrate values and community needs, like around health and housing, in consideration for how you want your city or community or county to grow and develop over time. So if you are in that area and you either live there, work there, serve folks there, check out those open sessions that they have for feedback. Mecklenburg County's Homes Grant application period is open until the 1st of November. This is going to help out Mecklenburg homeowners with economic support, and it's returning for another season, so it's going to be open until the 1st, and it's looking like they're already getting a lot of demand. So this year, the county partnered with the City of Charlotte to provide additional grant funding for qualifying residential homeowners and to help address the rising cost of retaining their homes. Another great program in Buncombe County is still operating its homeowner grant program. It's a recently approved new initiative that's aimed at helping qualified homeowners remain homeowners. And so grantees, if eligible, can choose to have their grant funds applied to their property tax bill, any city municipality taxes, and or apply to other housing-related obligations that they approve. Payments are made directly to the source of the approved bill, and households must be at or below 80% of the area median income. There are several other sort of prerequisites to be eligible for this grant program, so we'll make sure to link that in the call notes for you all as well. The Carroll Regional Council of Governments opened its Urgent Repair Program. This program is going to serve the counties of Warren, Franklin, Granville, Person, and Vance counties, and it's going to finance emergency home repairs for homeowners who are elderly or who have special needs and whose incomes are below 50% of the area median income for these areas. And this is made possible by over $260,000 reward by the Housing Finance Agency under the 2023 Urgent Repair Cycle. Moving to reports and resources, we have a few I want to lift up. There's a piece from the National Alliance on Homelessness about calculating change and looking at future directions on how to use homelessness data and reporting. And it talks about different recommendations that can be used to provide a fuller understanding of the scope of homelessness and therefore more effectively prevent and end it. And so for any practitioner out there, whether you're a data nerd like myself or not, you know that the data that we are required to use is really important, and how we collect it and the different sources we have really weigh heavily on access to funding and how we can make the case for homelessness and housing funding. So I thought this was a really great piece. There's also another piece from the Eviction Lab that finds that higher filing fees lead to lower eviction rates. And it just talks about the relationship between filing fees, eviction rates, and the burden on tenants. Looking at events happening across our state, the Asheville Housing Fair is happening this Saturday on September 23rd. It's going to be hosted by the Land of the Sky in collaboration with the Association of Realtors. The Land of Sky Association of Realtors, excuse me. And the event will also mark the formal rollout of a new affordable housing website that includes resources for renters, homeowners, landowners, landlords, and anyone else who would like information about access to or the creation of affordable housing. You can also grab a copy of their 2023 Affordable Housing Guide that includes a list of affordable housing developments in the area and related resources. Any other helpful information on topics such as fair housing and discrimination will also be available here, and the guide will be available in both English and Spanish. Another event that we want to list up, if you are in the Triangle area, specifically in Durham, there's a Durham for All City Council and Candidate Forum on Thursday, September 21st from 3:30 to 6:30 p.m. at St. Philip's Episcopal Church. So if you're interested in learning more about the candidates and their positions on things like affordable housing and other community matters, make sure to check that out. A virtual event happening on the 25th, so next week, being hosted by HUD and UC Berkeley with the Turner Housing Innovation Labs on September 25th from 3:30 to 5 p.m. There's going to be a housing technology in the news. We have a few pieces, but one that just feels really fitting right now for the time that we're in and the sort of budget impact is just the impact that delayed Medicaid extension is having for many North Carolinians. So even though Medicaid extension was signed into law by the governor in March 2023, it's tied and it's contingent on the budget passing. So it cannot go into effect until the state passes the budget. And so this piece looks at what that does, because it leaves hundreds of thousands of citizens in limbo and facing the loss of health care benefits and the lack of access to much needed care. And we have a few other pieces, both from in-state and out-of-state, that talk about new construction happening in Wake County and efforts to kind of keep up with the growth, as well as different efforts when it comes to land use regulations and the negative impact of homeless sweeps going on in the city of San Francisco. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Don't forget about those federal advocacy opportunities. Don't forget about taking a few moments to submit your feedback on our surveys. And if you're able to join us for our conference Don't forget that this Friday our early registration closes for that. So you all have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you next time.